Well, hi everyone. My name is Laurel. I am here at the Alamo. I am one of our living historians part-time, but I also do tour guides, guiding tours as well. But today we are going to share some of our activities that we do as part of our Homespun Saturday here in May. And I'm going to focus on spinning. So first off, we're going to start with our spinning, and I can show you some aspects of its history, where it came from as far back as it goes, and different aspects of it with drop spindles, support spindles, as well as with a spinning wheel. So I've got some wool on my drop spindle. This was made for us by a friend of mine. I used to have a little conure bird, so she painted that for me. But it's a nice little wooden spindle. Has a little pigtail hook at the top, and we're going to give that a spin. And that's going to put twist into my wool. We're going to guide out. Come on, work with me today. Here we go. We're going to guide out how much wool we're going to have into our yarn. And that is going to grow as we work with it. And so we're going to overlap some to get an even pull with our wool and guide that up. Give it another twist as we need to. Keep on working with our wool. And that just grows and lengthens as we go along, creating yarn. Now once we get to the length that we need to have it, can't reach any further, we're going to undo our twist and wind it up on the base. And that's how we keep control over our yarn. Wrap it around again, and we are off and spinning some more. And you would do this until you run out of wool, fill up your spindle. It does get heavier the further you go along, so it does get to a point where you feel like you need to remove it. Otherwise, you end up making thicker and thicker yarn as you go, just because the sheer weight of it is needed. And the reason these things are called drop spindles, because occasionally it'll pull loose and then you lose control over it and it falls on the ground. But before you put any twist in, it's very easy for you to join up new yarn. It continues on, just grabbing onto the fibers beside it, continuing to build and grow that yarn as you go along. And there we go. Now this is actually not completed yarn. We actually have a lot of twist in this. As you can see, that's kind of kinking up on me like so. And so we have one more step process that we need to do before we have completed yarn. We're going to take two strands together. We're going to run them together, and we're going to spin them one more time in the opposite direction. And that takes out that extra twist that we are accumulating here, and we create a two-ply yarn. It is a lot stronger, it's softer, and that is going to be ready to spin, and we'll be ready to work with that and make it into our weaving project, our knitting project, whatever we might want to utilize for that, any way that we wish to help clothe our family in that situation. And I do what's called support spindle spinning. This is what they call a Tockley spindle, and I believe that it originates in India. But cotton spinning is done throughout the ages during this time. Works a lot like our drop spindle, but we're going to have it in a bowl, and that helps control that spin. And cotton needs a lot more spin than what our wool does. So again, we're going to get that overlap we have with our yarn. Our wool gets twisted, continues to grow and twist. We keep giving more and more and more twist. It grows up and up and up, working our way off that seed, and we just keep working our way around that as we go. But this is what we start with, and this is what we end up with our cotton that we have here. All right, so we're looking at my spinning wheel that we have here. This is a very small version of many that are out and available even yet today, and this is called a parlor wheel. Has a very low, tiny footprint. It is able to fit into a house. Folks had small houses back in the early days, and so this took up very little valuable floor space that they had available to live in, and they would still be able to access this and be able to spin on a daily basis as need be for this situation. And so a lot of our gentlemen that we have come visit us like to look at the mechanics of a spinning wheel. It kind of works like a serpentine belt on your car. We actually have a doubled belt, as you can see here. I made it obvious with my orange cotton string that I utilized for this. We have 2 pulleys at the top here, and then a large flywheel here that turns everything along the way. A lot of folks like to see how the mechanics of our spinning wheels actually work. So you can see my orange drive belt that we have here. It's like a serpentine belt on your car, so it does crisscross, as you can see right there, and that runs 2 different mechanisms at the same time. We have one belt going to our bobbin, which winds up the yarn, so we didn't have to start and stop like we do with our drop spindle. And then we have another one which turns the entire mechanism, and that puts twist into the fiber as we're guiding it onto the wheel. And so this is foot treadle powered. There are 2 double treadles, as they call it, so it's more like riding a bicycle, but this one is a single treadle, so I only need 1 foot to do this. And we're going to give this a small twist, get that going, treadling along. You can see how that's spinning along, turning both the bobbin and the entire mechanism. That puts twist into it. I am guiding my wool that we carded up a little bit ago and creating yarn in the same manner as I do with my spindle, but this holds a lot more, and it also is a lot faster overall. And so that makes it more efficient as life goes on and you're making clothing for your family. But as we go along with that spinning along, just like we did with our drop spindle, it is collecting that extra twist, as you can see. And so we are going to, again, once this is full, to double that yarn together, spin it again in the opposite direction, creating that 2-ply yarn, because it had 2 strands that came through it, and that is giving it that strength, that softness, and making it less fussy when you're trying to work with it, and creating fabric or knitted garments for your family along the way.